On this episode of Lapeef, Let's Talk.
Why do people differentiate between what's light skin and dark skin? How is it any different than what's happening worldwide? How do you pick and choose? Listen, since the beginning of time, people have been tribal.
Okay.
And it's gone outside of what was necessary in order to be tribal. Tribal often at times in the very beginning of time aligned with what the need was. It had nothing to do with what separated you from a looks perspective at all. That's something that's relatively new. That's not something that historically is correct according to how it is that you're trying to align yourself. When we civilize the world and we stop focusing on what the need was and being tribal in that aspect, we then had time to start to separate ourselves based off of how we feel. And this is what you're seeing today. I'm telling you, bro, you really need to get outside of America and see what's happening all across the board, bro.
Or black women that we see dating outside our race. And what we end up doing is we say, hey, that's majority. You know what I'm saying? We look at the couple of football players, the couple of basketball players, the couple of athletes, the couple of all these different people. And then we sum it up to this is being the black race. When you look outside your door, you see a very small percentage of it. But that's our problem as black people. We sit here and make everybody our leaders. You know what I'm saying? It can be the dumbest person in the world. And guess what? Just because he play basketball good, we make him a leader. So now if he choose to date outside of his race, then now he almost is like, hey, look, he's holding the torch for black men. So for us to even have this conversation, and I know not just this platform, but across the our black culture, this conversation is coming up. It shows us how disconnected we is from what's important in our community. And it also shows how social media got control of us.
All right. What about you, Anton? Why do they care? People date outside their race.
I don't care why anybody care about if anybody date anybody. I mean, I don't really see it because for some reason or another, I still don't get this whole team thing and how we align ourselves with people based off of stuff that other people can't control. Women align themselves and their opinions based off of whether or not somebody's a woman or man. You know, same thing with men, conversely. And then on the other side, people align themselves based off of race. And, you know, it's like we pick and choose all of these different things of whether or not we're going to, you know, make a decision. And for me, it's silly because all of this stuff was established by people that made this decision for you before you was even born. And now you still rocking with it or establishing whether or not you align somebody with it based off of that. Like, for example, I'll give you an example, right? So somebody could say, well, if you got this percent of black blood in you, then you're black. And it's like, okay, so who came up with the formula and why are we still sticking to it? So does that mean that you're not that other race? If you got 50% of that and you still got 10%, like how do we establish that we still abide by these social norms that other people established at some point in time that we don't even know who established it, right? Who was the first person to come up with it? And why do we still align ourselves with it? Yet we still making decisions and opinions off of people based off of whatever overall society's social norm is. Y'all can't even vote a decent president in office. Like y'all can't even pick people based off of their policies, and you picking them based off of the lies that they sell you. And now they got y'all worrying about whether or not you accepting payments through cash apps now. You know, shout out to Biden, my guy. But my point is that how do we establish where do we draw a line in the sand, and why do we keep making assessments of whether or not we rock with something or we don't based off of things that people can't even control? You can't control how you was born. Yet we want to complain about the fact that people stereotype us. And then we do the same thing against other people when we see them rocking with somebody that don't look like who it is that you rock with. And it's all just a bunch of convoluted bullshit that don't even mean anything to anybody, because at the end of the day, when you go into your grave, you're going to be skull and bones, and nobody is going to care about anything that you look like, nor are you going to care about anything that you look like, because you're not even going to be here, and we all just people at the end of the day. So I don't understand it. I'm still not at the end of the day rocking with people based off of anything outside of the character that they have and to a larger extent, something that I can't control, the proximity that I have with people that I spend the most time with. I don't understand it. It makes no sense to me.
Hey, can I interject on what Antoine said? He brought up a good point that it went into my point when he said pick the presidents, not based on policies. We saw that. We saw that everybody picked that certain group because Meek Mills told you to, because so-and-so told you to. And then that goes into the dynamic of these relationships. You know what? They only doing what they see. They only reacting to what they see on social media instead of what they react to what they see in real life.
Okay.
So I wanna push back a little bit. I know Kayla got to jump in here, but I got to push back a little bit, and I want to go macro, and then let's bring in micro. And I've used this example before, Anton. I think that, and I appreciate what you're doing, bro, because I think you're trying to bring us to a heightened sense of awareness. But what you speak about is unique to America, because when you go to France, okay, they still make the distinction, like, yeah, they're Frenchmen, but they still make the distinction about the Nigerians that are there. They still make the distinction. If I go to London, they still make the distinction about the Jamaicans that are there. And those people align, to your point, based on proximity. And people will often align based on proximity in terms of who resembles them. So if you and I will go take a trip to Abu Dhabi, right? We'll go to Saudi Arabia. Guess what? The people in Saudi Arabia are going to align not primarily based on their values, principles. So that's who resembles me. So the assumption is you look like me. You look like me, so you share the same principles. What you speak on oftentimes, bro, is unique to America, but we don't see that in the larger context of the entire world, which is why if I go to Dearborn, Michigan, the Chaldeans will align with Chaldeans before they align with me, regardless of if I'm a good dude, regardless
That's
of
not true, bro. It's not true.
I would disagree with you.
It's not true. And largely,
because
I think you need to get out of your circle because the world is very much.
I just told you I was in Dearborn, Michigan.
You're not hearing what I'm saying.
What circle do I need to get out of if I'm telling you about your?
You need to get out of America, because America, what's happening across the board is largely the same thing that's happened as a reflection of America. Listen, why do you differ? Why not you specifically, but I'm speaking to people in general. Why do people differentiate between what's light skin and dark skin? How is it any different than what's happening worldwide? How do you pick and choose? Listen, since the beginning of time, people have been tribal.
Okay.
And it's gone outside of what was necessary in order to be tribal. Tribal often at times in the very beginning of time aligned with what the need was. It had nothing to do with what separated you from a looks perspective at all. That's something that's relatively new. That's not something that historically is correct according to how it is that you're trying to align yourself. When we civilize the world and we stop focusing on what the need was and being tribal in that aspect, we then had time to start to separate ourselves based off of how we feel. And this is what you're seeing today. I'm telling you, bro, you really need to get outside of America and see what's happening all across the board, bro.